Welcome to your community. This is your hometown. This is Walton Entertainment. This is where you can hear from the community and those making a difference. We explore topics, local festivals, arts and entertainment, and local news. For this program and much more, visit us online at yourlocalstream.com. That's yourlocalstream.com.
I'm with Pinnacle Bank here in Monroe, Georgia. Gail Sisk is here with me today. She's also in the Monroe office, and we represent the South Market of Pinnacle Bank, which is Monroe, Social Circle, and Covington, Georgia. Pinnacle Bank is headquartered in Elberton, Georgia, but we are still a community bank, basically in Northeast Georgia, providing full banking services from all your deposit needs, remote deposit capture, all the conveniences, mobile deposits, everything you can do for your phone these days. I am a business banker, vice president business banker, so I do commercial lending. Gail does consumer lending. And we, again, are growing fairly rapidly. We're across the northern part of the state in small towns that you may or may not recognize, such as Royston, Commerce, Brazelton, Blairsville, Gainesville. So we are in that northern part of the state. Still a small community bank by big bank standards especially. But we are full service. Anything that you need, we can do for you. So come see us. Thank you.
Today we are excited to give our annual State of the Cities update with representatives from between Good Hope, Loganville, Monroe, and Social Circle. We will have all present in alphabetical order by cities. As one is done, the next will come up to present. So between, we have Robert Post, Mayor Robert Post. For the city of Good Hope, we have Keith Braker. We have, and let's keep Mayor Guthrie in our prayers. Loganville, we have Ray Martinez. Monroe, we have Mayor John Howard. And in Social Circle, we have Mayor David Keener. Let's give these guys a round of applause.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Post. Since July of this year, I've been mayor of the town of Between. I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this luncheon today and being able to allow the cities to tell their story about what's going on in their cities, especially this year, which has been kind of nothing but turmoil, it seems like. Between's a very, very small town, 1.3 square miles, but less than 400 people. I moved into Walton County from Gwinnett County about 5 years ago. I was the assistant fire chief in Gwinnett County for 34 years, and then the fire chief in Barrow County for 2 years prior to that time. So I've been in county government a long, long time, and I know what's good and what's not good and how it works. Since I've been in Walton County, I found that Walton County does a very, very good job, and I think a lot of that has to do with the leadership of our chairman, Kevin Little. Hate to see him go. I think he's abandoning me right after I get into office. But it's there's a lot of things that are done very well in Walton County. Between has always been just a very small town. A lot of people don't even know that there is a town in Between. We've never been very well represented in the county, and that's one of the things that I campaigned on to make sure that people knew where Between was and make sure that they understand what Between stands for. Since I've been in office, I found that not a lot has been done over the last 20 years. Codes and ordinances haven't been updated, if the ones that they do have. Construction hasn't been taken care of. the encouragement for the town, publicizing the town has not been done. So we're in the process of working on that. One of the biggest things we started was we developed a website, townbetweanga.com. And it's about 10 pages long. It has a detailed calendar, news and events, our elected officials, their contact information, and the town officials and their communications. We post all the things like agendas for the town council meetings, and then the minutes of the meetings afterwards, events that have happened. A lot of the projects in between deal with road paving. We haven't had roads paved in some of our areas in at least 20 years. So one of the first things we did was we had New Hope Church Road paved. That was a great asset to get done. Thanks to the county also for providing the labor for that. And then we did some other paving projects in one of our subdivisions, in fact the one where I live. We're in the process now of revitalizing our business license program. Our codes and ordinance, our development regulations. There's just a myriad of things that need to be done. I'm spending about anywhere between 30 to 35 hours a week just on town business. My wife wants to know when I went back to work full time. I said, if I'd have known all the things that needed to be done, I might have thought differently about running for office. But it's a great feeling to have the opportunity to help improve your community. One of the things that I ran for and on was the fact that the city of Loganville is growing like crazy. The city of Monroe is growing like crazy, and we're right in the middle of it. So we can, my stand was that we can either determine how our town grows, or we can have somebody else determine how it grows. And that was a very important thing to the citizens of Between, to make sure that growth in the town is regulated and it doesn't get out of hand. We don't want to look like Memorial Drive or Scenic Highway in Gwinnett County. I like the rural area. We need some conveniences and some improvements, but we don't need to have Scenic Highway again. So that's one of the things that I'm working on. Of course, I'm filling out the term of our former mayor, Marla Guthrie. She moved out of the town and has now moved back into the town road. She moved a lot. But there's never been any stability in the town. I'm the 5th mayor in 5 years. They either just quit, one got divorced and moved out of the town, the other one just quit. Then Marla became mayor, and then they moved out of the town. So we went for a period of about 9 months without a mayor. The vice mayor was running the city. But hopefully this is going to be a long-term thing. I'll run again next year, and hopefully for another 4 years, and we can continue on with the progress that we're making in the town. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Good to see somebody from Between here, so welcome. I'm Keith Prather. I'm City Councilman in the City of Good Hope. As Renee mentioned, please do keep Jimmy Guthrie in your prayers. He's having some health issues, and that's the reason he gave me and David to represent our city today. Good Hope is another small town, so I'll try to keep my comments size appropriate here as well. We're about 1.7 square miles, so bigger than Between. I didn't know that. We're a population of about 300 people. The town was started in 1833 as a frontier town and chartered in 1905. So those were points of interest to me as I looked up information last night. 4 years ago, I ran a campaign for city council on the preface of making Good Hope gooder. So I've done that for 4 years. Apparently the word is out. So I ran my re-election campaign unopposed, keeping Good Hope gooder. So and I won that, thankfully. So, but apparently the word is out that Good Hope is indeed gooder. We're getting new rooftops all over Good Hope, some inside city limits and some outside city limits. Good Hope is a bike-friendly town. We have Tony Serrano's bike rides through our town all the time, and bicyclists everywhere. So if you come through, keep your eyes peeled. We don't have too many projects going on in Good Hope right now. We do have slated for sidewalks on Pleasant Valley Road, so engineering work is being done for that. That will be splost money spent for sidewalks. Dollar General, also known as a Good Hope Mall, is doing well in Good Hope. Good Hope General Store has changed ownership and is also still doing very well. We have a new sheriff's precinct in Good Hope, and that's been very welcome. So we have sheriff's presentation there, and it's good to have them in town. They've been very welcomed. So, as I promised, I will keep my comments appropriate to the size of our town. Thank you for letting me be.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Martinez, and I'm going to be honest with you today. My 10 years marks my 10th year anniversary serving the city of Loganville, and this year, you can probably tell I don't have much of a butt because it's been chewed up. It's been a tough, no joke, folks. It's been the toughest year for any mayor, especially for me, in the 10 years. Development, Loganville, COVID, essentials, not essentials, what businesses to keep open, what businesses to close, mask mandate. It seems like you can't please anybody. But I stand firm in my decisions. As you guys know, we're Gwinnett and Walton County. City of Loganville straddles two counties, and it's like night and day dealing with Gwinnett and Walton County. But I want to first thank the Walton Chamber for having me here today. It's not hard to look back in the past year or so, not to talk about COVID-19, but I promise I will try to make it brief about it. As you all know, the city of Loganville, like I said, straddles two counties, Walton and Gwinnett County, both of which took different approaches in how to combat what was early parts of the year labeled as a pandemic. Myself, as mayor and the city of Loganville Council, were forced to make tough decisions as we try to figure out what was the best way to approach the spread of a disease we knew so little about. Of course, our leadership, Danny Roberts, our employees adapted and were diligent in being able to maintain the daily operations of government with as little impact as possible to our great citizens. I also want to take a moment to thank the great citizens of Loganville, but all those in Walton and Gwinnett counties when faced with the challenges of not only a new disease, but also ever-changing set of rules and regulations we all adapted. When this year's all over, I hope we could all emerge with a new sense of what it means to be part of a great community. I hope that we all have emerged with new appreciation for our local and small businesses, local employees who help make our communities unique. I hope that when this is all over, each of us is able to look back on 2020, and like I said, it's been the hardest year for me personally, and I'm sure for most of you, and COVID with the realization of our own strength and abilities on how we can rise up to help those around us. One of the truest testaments to how the great Loganville community is when we in the Loganville Police Department had an accident with Lieutenant Bruce Showalter, suffered a traumatic brain injury back in February. It seems so long ago, but through prayers and boot drives, Showalter has found the support he needed in the Loganville community. Another great testament of how the great Loganville community was seen in the citywide cleanup that took place just before COVID. Speaking of events, let me tell you one thing. I remember back in June, July, we had, as you guys know, Gwinnett County has 16 cities, and the great chairman, which she is retiring this year in Gwinnett County, Charlotte Nash, went down the road saying, we got COVID, what is the city's plans? Went down to Auburn, North Ross, Lawrenceville, Duluth, and so on and so forth. Every single city in Gwinnett County, and I couldn't believe it, what I was hearing. Every single, this was before the 4th of July, every single city in Gwinnett County was shutting down their city. No events, no fireworks display, no concerts, none of that. I was surprised. They came down to Loganville. I said, that ain't gonna happen in Loganville. That ain't gonna happen. Our people need to celebrate. First of all, this was a week before the 4th of July. Our people need to celebrate our independence. We did carry on and had a fireworks display, very successful, as you know, most of you went, and we carried on and had our concerts. We only canceled one concert, and that was because of rain. But COVID did not defeat Loganville. It did not. We kept it open. We even had a festival. We had a car show. We had the wind fling, and we're also going to have a Christmas Day parade. Maybe depends on the participation, but we are going to have Santa come to town. I couldn't believe it, and I'm very proud of the leadership that our mayors took in Walton County. They went ahead and did what they had to do to keep their cities open. Well, I'm very disappointed with some of the actions that Gwinnett County did. And that's some of the things that we're dealing with right now. I want to thank our chairman for taking the lead. I know T-Spots did not pass this year, but let me tell you one of the things, there's word out there, and it's really frustrates me sometimes. There's word out there that we're spending money. Let me tell you some of the stuff that's SPLOST, special, you guys know what SPLOST is, special purpose local option sales tax. Back in 2009, every time somebody comes by and supports our businesses, that extra cent goes to these projects. We were able to get a new fire station from SPLOST. That destination park on the Gwinnett side, Old Loganville Road, we were able to pay for that from SPLOST. Transportation, right now, we got some paving roads going on. As we speak in Loganville, that's SPLOST money. Somewhat I'm disappointed that T-Spots did not pass. Let me tell you, those monies are used for our roads, and every time somebody comes to Loganville and purchases gas, those monies pay for transportation. I'm very disappointed about that. I'm going to leave you with this real quick. Before you cancel Thanksgiving, and you know what, I'm very disappointed at some leaders out there. Really am. I keep hearing that they're canceling Thanksgiving, the Macy's Day Parade and all that. Before you cancel Thanksgiving and Christmas with your loved ones, remember, this may be the last holiday you have with your family. We are not guaranteed a single minute on this earth. So stop living in fear and embrace life to its fullest. Do not listen. I tell you, that's right. Do not listen to these people that are telling you, do not gather around with your Thanksgiving, that we're going to come by and find you, or we're going to have the folks out there and feed you. And I'm telling you, it's not happening. I'm glad it's not happening here in Georgia, but you see some of those states doing that. And I'm going to finish up with this real quick. Just because someone isn't afraid of COVID doesn't mean he or she doesn't believe in it. He or she understands the risk, but doesn't prioritize fear over life. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
I was sitting there talking to David Keener from Social Circle a little bit earlier, and I had a couple of different speeches and couldn't decide which way to go. And he said, look, if you'll just speak with the passion of Ray Martinez, don't say anything at all about COVID. And he said he's also sick of hearing about all of our projects in Monroe. So that leads me to speech one. The reason that people move to an area, think about the reasons that folks have chosen to move to Monroe. We've had over 100 new homes built in the last year, averaging over $300,000 a piece. They move here because of safety. They move here because of jobs. They move here because of good schools. They move here because of parks and trails. And now they move here because of technology as well. Hang on, David. All right, go. So please keep in mind the great majority of our success is shared. We have Nathan Franklin with Walton County Public Schools. We've noticed we've just had the highest graduation rate we've ever experienced. We have great health care. Piedmont Walton, with the leadership of Larry Ebert, has gone from a failing grade as Clearview to the purchase, and we're now graded at A, one of the top 10 hospitals in the state. Go ahead. Walton County Development Authority has brought jobs. So we have Facebook here. We have What has gone from Shire to Baxalta to Baxter, all of those names, to Decatur now, we have another couple of large announcements that we expect to be coming within the next few months, in the billions of dollars, and it is going to do nothing but spur success in our entire county. So Destin Morris has also just announced that we have a manufacturer ready program. It's the first one of the state at Monroe area, so way to go, Destin. And Chief Watts, who has been our police chief for the city of Monroe for the last 2.5 years, we've seen double-digit decreases in Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. Now, shopping in Monroe is something a little bit different from the time that I grew up. Also one of the reasons that I kind of never intended to come back here. But if you'll take a look at our downtown, we're the #1 downtown in the state. Thank you, Sadie Lynn. But we're also doing things like repurposing buildings, renovating buildings. We have Southern Brewing that used to be the livery stables, also is Wayfarer. John Supermarket has done the repurposing. They've completely renovated and repurposed their stores, and they will have 6 upstairs loft apartments probably within the next couple of months. Senior Flats on Broad Street will be the new construction. Silver Queen also new construction. And of course, you're all aware of the Pavilion, which will be the public shopping center. So we have a national branded retail establishment coming as well. That construction will start in January. So as we continue to adhere to state guidelines on social distancing and contacting and sanitizing and all that, hopefully you're washing your hands occasionally. Our sales tax revenues for the city of Monroe for the last 5 months, year over year, have been up by double digits. But you've also noticed our park renovations. This goes directly to SPLOST. We have completely redone Pilot Park. We've completely redone, we're in the process of completely redoing Matthews Park, and the play areas opened there yesterday. We have Hammond Park that is being completely reinvented. That will probably start in the next year. Our downtown green as well. So when we say we want you to live here, work here, and play here, we're accomplishing those goals, and we want you to do it safely. So thanks again to RV and his team. Last month we signed a $50 million bond to enhance technology and infrastructure. We have not had a water tank built in Monroe since I was -8 years old, so that was 1962. And we have our first water tower that's coming back, and may not be the prettiest in the world, but it's definitely needed to enhance our water, our fire flow. And we also will be doing a fiber to the home project, so every home in Walton County, or every home in the city of Monroe will get fiber. Now, regarding Walton County, I do recommend the county and each of you cities invest in fiber to the homes of your residents as well. As we have pandemics that will hit us, and they will again, we're going to have to learn how to educate our children more quickly, more efficiently, and if they don't have the technology in their houses, they're falling behind. So you'll see that from the city, that we'll have the opportunity to offer that to every single person in Monroe, and we're going to give our kids a step up in long-term life success. Also, as you're aware, the Christmas season in Monroe is like stepping into a Norman Rockwell painting. We have Sadie and Leanne work tirelessly with tons of volunteers. We have Thursday night candlelight shopping. We'll have our kids parade through the park. If you haven't seen our 12 Days of Christmas set up, the lighting should be available the first part of next week. That parade, the first parade is November 24th. And then our annual Christmas parade through town. It's going to be a little bit different. Last year we reversed it. This year we're going to keep it stationary. We had 15,000 people here for last year's Christmas parade. And that's not just a random guess. That's through the number of cell phone signals that were here. So we've opened it up to allow better social distancing and allow our crowd, our visitors, to walk past each of our attendees. Also, the mayoral float this year is going to be a little bit different. I try to have the young ladies from Walnut Grove, Monroe area, and George Walton, who are representative of their schools, ride in my car, and then I try to operate the parade because that's one of my joys. This year, I'm actually going to have a float. We'll have the group from On Stage and the drama club from George Walton that will be performing Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So they'll sing Shake It Up Baby and Dr. Shane, and I'm excited about that. How am I doing on time? 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute for the 8 pages of projects that we have. Our truck connector bypass has been fully planned, fully funded, and construction will start with 18 months. Livable Cities Initiative sidewalks, lighting, and street trees along Broad and Spring will be completed, with the next step going to the downtown green underway. The airport expansion is underway. We have new hangars being built. I think we have 16 units, and then we have a separate private hangar that's also being built. West Spring Street sidewalk stormwater project is complete. Sewer down Madison is also in process and just about finished, and thank you, I see you. And we'll redo that road as well. Paving on Madison will start in March or April. West Spring Street through to Walmart, that extra lane has been added. Our traffic calming initiatives have been added. Community development block grants, transportation alternatives, airport hangars, natural gas. Old waterworks plant has been refurbished. Walton Plaza, where the new police department is underway, we're moving in January, right over there. We've created a countywide master plan for, with Kevin and the other mayors, that's all in process for moving folks in, through, and around and out of Monroe efficiently and safely. And you come on up while I'm talking. We've saved taxpayers $50,000 a year with renting out the community building rather than just having it sit there, so it's back to its use as a school. And thank you.
I'm David King, the Mayor of Social Service. It's good to be with you here today. Not had a very good week. Many of you may know that my precious mother passed away last week, and she's 90 years old, and I know she's in a better place now, but forgive me if I stall a little bit today, because it always hurts to lose your mom. But I want to thank the other mayors in their presentation. I love you guys, you know that. I think, Ray, you mentioned the fact that we work well together, and I believe we do. Also well with the county. I want to thank Kevin Biddle. I don't see if he's still here or not, but thank you, Kevin, for your leadership with the county and the cities as we work together to get through this most challenging year that we've ever seen, certainly that I ever remember. My challenge today, since I'm the last speaker, I know we only have a certain amount of time. I think I got 30 minutes, is that right, Renee? But I stand before you today. Usually I can say I'm standing between you and lunch, but that's not the case today, so I guess I'm standing between you and maybe a nap for some of you this afternoon. I know that's probably in my plan for this afternoon. So, thank a few people. You'll notice a video behind me, and forgive me if what I say doesn't sync up with that. Trying something new, and I realize I'm the only one that brought a PowerPoint today, but I'll try to keep in tune with my comments to what's on the screen behind me, but it may be like one of the old movies that we've all seen, you know, where the lips are moving and something totally different on the screen. So forgive me if that happens. I thank God for His grace for this year. It may seem like to some of us that God may have forsaken us, but trust me, He has not. This is within His plan. We certainly don't know why everything that's happened this year, but I guarantee you it is God's plan to do so. Going through the city today, my comments will lead through the different departments in the city, but I want to thank our city manager, our city staff, our department heads, all of the boards and commissions that we have. I'm sure, as with the other mayors, what they do makes what we do much easier. You know, I'm so thankful for our employees in the city. So with that, I'll try to move through this PowerPoint. If you will, please, the first slide. Our city council, we have 4 council members. I'm thankful for them. They've had a difficult year, as we all have, kind of doing things in a new way, you know. Before this year, probably very few of us ever heard of Zoom and team meeting and the way we're doing business, so we've had to kind of move through those way of doing things through the years, or through this year. And some of it's good, you know, we'll probably continue that process. Some of that has worked out well, you know, and just doing business openly as we typically do. So we've navigated through that. We've had to have our meetings in larger venues. The Social Circle Theater, we've been there. We've been at our high school, at the middle school. And I'm thankful to them that they allow us to have our meetings there and we can get together. It seems like now, you know, the virus may be returning a little bit more. Not so much here in Walton County, I think, but maybe in some other hot spots around. It's like Mayor Martinez said, we can't allow the virus to control us. We've got to keep our cities moving, our county moving, our state moving, and our country moving for that. I spoke about the city council. If you will, the next slide, please. Our city manager, Ms. Adele Sherman. I'll go through some of the accomplishments that we've done this year. Our neighborhood and residential growth is averaging about 40 to 50 permits per month. We've got Dove Landing with 35 new homes, Jubilee with 20 new homes, Clover Drive 7 new homes, Arbor Glen subdivision 2 new homes, with a total value of residential permits for 2020 of about $4.5 million. So that's it's a great thing. Next slide, please. That's one of our homes we built. Following slide, commercial growth. We've had 1 warehouse, 1 manufacturing building, with three more coming soon. Total value of commercial permits for the year is a little over $3 million, $3.5 million. The funds, the infrastructure, services supporting growth. The CDBG grant, we got a $750,000 grant for the sewer system improvements in our Mill Village neighborhood, and I know Monroe got one as well. We actually went and accepted those recently together. We have grant funding for sidewalk extensions along East Hightower and North Cherokee. That's for a transportation grant that we received. We've got grants for continued development of our Friendship Park. We've had some contributions for that. Facebook has given us $50,000, Georgia Power $10,000, $25,000 from our DDA, for a total of $134,000 of grant this year to move forward with our Friendship Park. Our city services are growing. The city transit is thriving, has an eye on growth and expansion. Fire department completed an ISO review, resulting in a city rating from a 4 to a 2, which is among the top 3% of the nation. It's quite something to be proud of, to have that ISO rating of 2. And of course, it helps our citizens by lowering their insurance rates. And don't know if we'll ever get to a 1, that's our goal, but I'm proud of it too. Our police department attained state certification and carried themselves in an exemplary fashion during a period of national and local racial unrest. Next slide, please. Our Public Works, under the leadership of Robbie Groves, interim director for our Public Works Department, has completed phase 2 of Friendship Park with a pavilion that we've installed there. It's working on sidewalk extensions on East Hightower and North Cherokee Road through the TAP grant. It's leading a cooperative effort with Boy Scouts and other organizations to clean, repair, and refurbish historic headstones and markers in our cemetery, improving cemetery access through strengthening existing lanes, paving county line road, water and sewer line repair and upgrades. We continue to do those. Next slide, please. Our police department, under the leadership of Chief Will Brinkley. Chief Brinkley's been with us now for about, I guess going on 6 months, close to that. This fine man came to us out of Athens, Clark County. We lost, many of you know, our previous chief of police, Mr. Tyrone Oliver, was chosen by Brian Kemp to go to Atlanta to work there, and he's now over the commissioner over juvenile justice. Renee, am I running out of time already? Okay, I'll try to wrap up. She's hard on us, you know. So a few of the things the police department's done this year, they continue to conduct themselves in an exemplary fashion through peace walks that we've had and different things like that. Citizens Police Academy, they do 2 times a year. We've held multiple community events, Faith in the Blue, Lion and Lionhearted golf tournaments. Moving on to our fire department under the leadership of Ken Zadell. We've delivered 5 prevention and education to 4,500 residents and visitors. We placed a new E1 fire engine to replace an old engine that we had. And we replaced out-of-date equipment using SPLOST funds. And I'll try to wrap up real quickly with our Main Street Commissioner, Commission, I'll get that right in a minute. I don't have a minute left, but Director Amber McKibben is the leader over that group, and she's basically in charge of our downtown area, does an excellent job. Amber, I think she's supposed to be here. Thank you, Amber, if you are here. We've had the Back to School Bash, the Independence Day celebration, Friendship Festival, at downtown trick-or-treating, and we're coming upon our Christmas in the Circle. So having said all that, we've done a few other things. Got a few businesses that are coming into town, the grilling station, Village Pizza opening soon, and Morris Realty opening during this year. So anyway, that, I guess the slideshow, I don't know if it's synced up or not, but anyway, you may have seen some of the different things back there. I appreciate y'all being here today. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and please keep my family in your prayers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Wagner, and I will be reading The Thanksgiving Story by Alice DeLanglish. 2 ships and a big adventure. It was summer day in England. Giles, Constance, and Damaris Hopkins were on their way to America. As they waited with their father and mother on the ship, they could see a great deal going on around them. They were in the harbor of the town of Southampton. Many ships were in the harbor. 2 of them were taking on food and water and all the things needed by people going to a new country. The larger ship was the Mayflower. The smaller one was the Speedwell. Men, women, and children were on the ships with their bundles and their boxes. To the children, it was a great adventure. Anything might happen on a ship. Something special would happen to the Hopkins family on their long voyage. The passengers on the Mayflower and on the Speedwell were of many different kinds. All of them were settlers, going to settle or make homes in the new land. Some of them were people that we call pilgrims. A pilgrim is a person who travels to a far-off place because of his religion. In England at the time, everyone had to go to the same church. The pilgrims wanted to be free to have their own church, to worship God in their own way. So they left England and had gone to live in Holland. Now they had come back from Holland to sail to America. Some of the people on the ships were servants and a few hired workmen. A carpenter like John Alden would be useful in the new land. Some people were going just for adventure. Others were going because they thought England was crowded, there would be more room to farm in America. Between the two decks, there was a room or space for passengers. The sailors called this 'tween decks. In the lower part or hold of the ship were barrels of water and food. There were seeds to plant and tools for planting them. There were saws, axes, and hammers for building houses. Some of the barrels held things for trading with the Indians. There was bright colored cloth. There were beads and knives and little mirrors, all things they had heard the Indians liked to have. Now the time had come for the ships to start on their great adventure. The children would have liked to be on deck to see the land as they sailed away from it. But the sailors were very busy. The captain gave orders for the passengers to stay down below until the ships were out of the harbor. Only the sailors could be on the deck while the sails were being set. How crowded it was below deck! Passengers had small mattresses on the floor, each close to the next one. There was some wooden bunks or ship's beds, and a few people had cabins. In their cabin, Giles, Constance, and Damaris listened. They heard the rattle of the chains as the anchor was raised. They heard the sailors singing. They heard the creak and the creak of ropes as sailors worked with the sails. The big white sails would fill with wind and move the ships across the ocean. May we go on deck now? Not until the sails are set. More strange noises and more time to wait. Then the ships were out in the ocean. Soon the captain of the Speedwell put up signal flags. These flags told the other ship that the Speedwell was in trouble. She was leaking and could not go on. Perhaps her captain was afraid to take such a small ship on such a long voyage. Both ships sailed back to land. Some of the passengers from the Speedwell stayed in England. Some of them went on the Mayflower. That made the Mayflower more crowded than ever. There were 102 passengers on that small ship. Many of them were children. A ship sails alone. This time the Mayflower sailed from Plymouth. Out into the wide ocean went the little ship. Now she was all alone. Soon even the seagulls that followed her had flown back to shore. Many people were seasick. Others were sick because they did not have fresh fruit or vegetables to eat. Most days they ate hard biscuits and salted or dried meat. A few times a week they could make a charcoal fire on sand placed in an iron box and sit around it to get warm. They cooked a big pot of porridge or soup or stew. Nothing felt so good as that warm food in their stomachs. Warm days, sunny days, gray days, rainy days. Then came a big storm. How the waves beat against the ship. Everyone was afraid. Perhaps they would go back to England. After the storm, the sea grew calmer, and the pilgrims gave thanks to God. A baby was born to the Hopkins family, a baby brother for Giles, Constance, and Damaris. What was the new baby to be called? Some of the children on the ship had names like Love, Resolved, Humility, and Remember. There seemed to be only one name for the child born on the ocean, so the Hopkins baby was called Oceanus. The Mayflower sailed on and on. The days and nights grew colder. There was plenty of time to talk about Virginia, the part of America they were going. It would be warm there, with sunshine and flowers and green trees. As the days went on, more people were sick. Would the food and water last until the ship came to land? Some of it would have to be kept for the sailors on the ship going back to England. 2 more months went by. Everyone was tired. No one was very clean. There was no fresh water to wash in. At last, one day a sailor called, "Land ho!" What a scurrying and hurrying up on the deck there was as the passengers all tried to see the shore. As the ship came near, they could see evergreen trees growing near the water. It was not warm Virginia, with its sunshine and flowers. It was Cape Cod, and it was winter. There were no friends to welcome the pilgrims, no houses to live in, but they had come to land, and so they knelt and thanked God for bringing them safely to the new country. They sailed a little farther and came into a sheltered harbor. The new land. Everyone would have liked to go on shore and walk the good, firm ground. The women could hardly wait to wash all their dirty clothes. But first, some of the men went to see if it was safe. There would be Indians. The settlers had heard all kinds of stories about Indians. So the men carried their guns. They would not shoot unless to protect themselves. One of the men who went ashore was Miles Standish. He was a soldier and had been training some of the men to use the guns. Another was Stephen Hopkins, father of the Hopkins children. On the Mayflower, Giles, Constance, and Damaris waited and waited for their father to come back. Oceana slept and slept, as babies do. The men waded through the ice-cold water, pulling the ship's boat up on the beach. They walked along the shore, and there seemed to be nothing but sand and sand and more sand. They cut some sweet-smelling branches of juniper, a kind of evergreen, and took them back to the ship. That night, the settlers have a warm wood fire. Some of the women and children on the Mayflower went ashore as soon as they could and had a wash day. There was a pond of fresh water near the beach. It was good to have clean, fresh clothes again. The Mayflower had brought a small sailboat or fishing boat. This was to be taken ashore and mended. Some of the men worked on it. Meanwhile, other men went on looking for corn. They had heard about it from the others who had been to the new land. They would trade with the Indians for seed to plant. If they could not find corn, everyone might die of hunger. The seeds they had brought from England might not grow. They looked everywhere. Once they saw Indians and a dog, but they ran away into the woods. They kept on looking. No corn, but an old kettle half buried in the sand. A ship's kettle. How did it come there? No corn, but a pot hung over the place where a fire had been. No corn, but small hills of sand. The men dug down into one, and there was a little old basket filled with corn. Now they had corn to plant. They found other baskets. These were big baskets, and it took 2 men to carry one. They filled their pockets with corn. Someday they would find Indians and pay them for it. One day they did see some more Indians. These Indians were not friendly. They shot at the settlers with their bows and arrows. The men shot back with their guns. After the Indians had gone, the settlers picked up many arrows on the sand. Now the people of the Mayflower decided to sail across the bay to find a place to build their homes. They sent the fishing boat first to find a good harbor. Then the Mayflower sailed across a place marked on the map. It was called Plymouth. The settlers called it New Plymouth because they had sailed from Plymouth in England. It was a cold December day when some of the settlers landed. Once again they knelt and thanked God. He cared for them. This was a good place for homes. Indians had lived there, and there were fields where corn had been grown. There was rich black earth for planting and plenty of fresh water. New homes in a new land. The winter was not a cold one, but it seemed long to the settlers. Many of them were sick, many of them died. It was a sad time for everyone. Some people stayed on the ship and others went ashore to work. They took with them some boards that they had brought on the ship. They cut down trees and made rough boards. First they built a house to hold food. and some of the sick people stayed in this house. There were 2 smaller houses. One was used to keep supplies, and one was for the sick people. One night, a thatched roof on the larger house caught fire. From the Mayflower, Giles, Constance, and Damaris could see the flames. The men on shore put out the fire. With a great deal of hard work, the men built 7 small houses. Now the Hopkins family had a home of their own. And at last came spring. There were new leaves on the trees and flowers in the woods and fields. Birds sang in the trees. The country was no longer cold and wintry and bare. It was green and friendly and beautiful. Almost everyone was weak and thin, for there had been so much sickness and not enough to eat. But weather for planting seeds was coming. Giles, Constance, and Damaris were happy to be out in the spring sunshine. Ever since they had landed, the settlers had been finding new trees and plants in this land. They also found many trees and flowers that they had known in England. They told each other about them as if they were meeting old friends. There were oaks and walnut and birch trees, ash and wild cherry and plum, and here are strawberries and watercress. In April, the Mayflower went back to England. Now the settlers were alone in a new country, alone except for the Indians. Sometimes the settlers saw smoke from Indian fires. They saw Indians too, but the Indians always ran away. One day, a tall Indian walked right into their village and spoke to the settlers in English. He had learned it from some of the sea captains who had come to that part of the country. His name was Samoset, and the people of Plymouth were surprised to see that the Indians wore so few clothes. It was still cold weather, and how could he have had only that little piece of leather around his waist? They gave him a coat. Later, he brought another Indian named Squanto, who spoke better English, because he had been taken to England on a ship. The 2 told the pilgrims why there were so few Indians in that part of the country. Many of them had died of sickness. It was fine to have a friendly Indian there in the daytime, but when night came, the settlers wished he would go away. He stayed, so they let him sleep in the Hopkins house, but watched him all night. Did Giles, Constance, and Damaris stay awake wondering about their strange visitor? We do not know. After this, the Indian chief, Massasoit, was to visit. The people of Plymouth made a place for the chief outside one of the houses they were building. They put boards and blankets on the ground and a green rug and cushions for Massasoit to sit on. The Indians came to the meeting wearing leggings of deerskin. Their faces and bodies were painted in bright colors. The chief was painted dark red and wore a necklace of white beads. The settlers went to the meeting in their best clothes, with a trumpet and drums. The governor wore a red sash and a feather in his hat. The settlers gave the Indian chief 2 shining knives and a copper chain to hang around his neck. Massasoit promised to be friendly. When his people came to Plymouth, they would not bring bows or arrows with them. The promise of friendship was kept for 50 years. Squanto, the friendly Indian, stayed in Plymouth. He showed the settlers how to plant corn in the Indian way. The Indians put small dead fish in each place where a seed was planted. This fertilized the corn and helped it grow. That year, men, women, and children worked hard planting, and that year there was a good crop of corn. Everyone worked to gather the harvest. A time of Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims decided to have a special day to thank God for all He had given them. They had done this at harvest time in England. Now they wanted to have a Thanksgiving feast and invite the Indian chief and his people. And what a feast it was! Men went out into the woods to shoot deer and wild turkeys. The women cooked and baked. Only 51 settlers had lived through the winter, and half of them were children. Only a few women to do all the cooking. The older children helped as much as they could. But now Oceanus Hopkins was walking, and a new baby, Peregrine White, slept in his cradle. Peregrine was born on the Mayflower when it was anchored off Cape Cod. His name meant wanderer or pilgrim. The day of Thanksgiving dinner was warm and pleasant. Long tables were set out of doors, probably the pilgrims dressed in their best clothes they had, and the men wearing their big wide hats instead of work caps. Then Massatwat, the great chief, came, and the settlers must have counted the long, long line of Indians that followed him. 1, 2, 20, 40, 50, 60? Yes, there were 90. Somehow there would be food for all. And there was. Massatwat and his men had done their share, for they had brought deer to the feast. The Indian chief and the governor of Plymouth sat at one table. Some sat at tables, some on the ground. Elder Brewster, the minister, said a prayer, giving thanks to God for homes and food and safety in the new land. The Indians may have understood about the prayer, for their people had a Thanksgiving prayer of their own. They gave thanks to their God, who made the trees grow, the corn grows, and all kinds of fruit. After the feast, the settlers played games. The Indians danced. Miles Standish brought out his soldiers, and they drilled as the Indians watched. The Indians stayed for 3 days. The Pilgrims did not forget the hard times. They knew there would be difficult times to come. Still, they felt they had many things to be thankful for. They had food and houses and warm fires. The Indians were their friends. They were free in this new land, free to work, free to make their homes, to worship God in their own way. Perhaps they sang the hymn they had brought to the new world with them. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. And if they did, Giles, Constance, and Damaris sang with them. The end.
Growing up in the South, I knew the value of that summer garden. A lot of us have busy lives now and can't have a garden. So if you don't want to eat out of a can, you either go pick it yourself at a farm, or you can take a short drive to the Crow's Nest.
Well, the Crow's Nest started on a whim. We decided that this end of town needed a little produce, and there are several farmers out here that we buy local from, and we just decided to come closer to them. And Kim Crow, who owns the Crow's store next door, was gracious enough to rent this for us, and we got started 4 years ago. Well, we carry a lot of seasonal, which is your local squash, zucchini, tomatoes, okra, beans, and cantaloupe, watermelons, anything that we can find that's local we'll get.
What really took me back was the smell. When you walk in this place, it is delicious to your nose. All of the fruits and the vegetables mixed together, it is amazing. Then when you walk through here, you see all this fresh produce, the fresh vegetables and the fresh fruit. It is amazing. I loaded up with some sweet corn, and it was delicious. I'll definitely go back. This is a great place. I recommend.
The difference is freshness, and we strive to have the freshest produce in town.
We go to the market about every other day to get fresh.
Correct. And we get it local from our farmers, and the freshness has a better taste because grocery stores shelf, and that takes all the vitamins and the freshness out of it. So buying local is the best way to go.